That'll catch you off guard there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rain, sleet, or snow cannot keep Salanitro away. Look at
The right town is well
right
represented.
town representatives.
Yeah, the guy plowed his way in here.
Of course, we're coming from about 5 minutes away. No, I apologize to everybody. Everybody managed to get here. We have 3 of our commission members en route. They're trying to commute from New York City. They were trying to get in for 6, and then they've changed trains. You know, if anybody's commuted from New York, they know the trials and tribulations. So it's who knows when they'll get here. But I thought what we would do is start off by, we don't have a quorum for any formal business, but I thought we could begin to listen to comments from the public. If anybody had any comments from the public and hear whatever reports we have. And then of course, very much interest looking to hear from you, from Frank. And if they don't make it for some reason, well, at least you'll have it on TV. They'll be able to watch it at home. And, I know a lot of people over Christmas are looking forward to looking at the Ride Town Park meeting. I know it's been a Christmas favorite for a long time. So let me open up to comments, questions from the public. Any comments, questions from the public? Linda, beautiful. Great, thank you.
Bishop, you have an extra pen over there for me, Bishop?
Extra? No. But I can.
Hi.
Hey, Linda.
Linda Wells, Friends of Rye Town Park. I just wasn't able to be here at the last meeting, so I thought I'd come tonight and give you a brief overview of some of the projects that we're working on and where we are.
Great.
On the Information Center, the structure for which was built this past season, we've explored the cabinetry for displaying announcements, etc., and one of our board members feels that he would be able to build them in like kind to the structure itself, save some money, and get a more aesthetically pleasing product as a result. So I have a conceptual piece that I was going to bring tonight, but I didn't want to lug it up here in the snow. So we'll show it to you at the next meeting, and we'll plan to move forward unless anybody has objections to it. We've also found some solar-powered lighting strips that we think could work as an illumination source in concert with a motion detector, so that in the evenings, if people need to see the announcement board, they can. And that's not a huge investment. It's something we'll cover. The map we've had a little trouble with, but we're going to exert a little bit more pressure on the artist and see if we can get that underway as well. So that's rolling along over the winter months. The tree inventory, which I mentioned meeting before last, has been done. I now have the formal report in my hands, which is in excess of 100 pages of printed material.
Wow.
And it really contains some very meaty information that I think long-term will serve the park very well in terms of trying to do a management program for the trees. I just extrapolated a few important points from it, which I'll mention here briefly. There are 331 catalog trees in the park, some of which are actually groupings of trees that are not unique plants of their own. There might be a cluster of Canadian redbud that's considered a tree, for example, but there are 331 that were counted and tagged, and among those there are 58 species, which I found really interesting. Pardon me?
There's 330. You wouldn't know it to look at it.
You wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
But they're there. And the concentration of trees by far, the group that's by far the largest in the park are maples, which in and of themselves are not necessarily the desirable species. So that's very telling right there. I would say overall they've rated things by each tree by condition based on certain criteria. And surprisingly, at quick glance, at first glance without additional evaluation, 71% of the trees are fair to poor in condition.
Wow.
Which is very eye-opening.
Why is that?
Range of things, anywhere from dead wood, fractures, missing limbs, that, the damage that's occurred over the years. Some of them are rotting. They've had pest invasion, a whole range of things.
Are there things we can do to improve the quality of the tree?
Well, this is the information that we have at hand to try to figure out what makes the most sense, given available budgets and
Sure.
common sense.
Yeah.
And truthfully, all of what's in this report in terms of recommendation, et cetera, does not take budget into consideration. They just said, in the ideal world, this is what we would suggest, and here's the information to back up the recommendations. There are 2 dead trees in the park right now that should be removed, but we'll get onto that at a later point. The age of the trees was also very significant. 38% of the trees have reached their full growing potential, so we're looking at an old infrastructure. Just like the buildings in the park, the trees are old. So even though, as of the generation of this report, excuse me, they may have been considered in good condition, that could have changed since they were inventoried. We've had weather, we've had all kinds of things. So that I thought was very interesting. I think I mentioned before, the aggregate value of the trees based on a formula that they used for the Council of Trees and Landscape Appraisers Guide is in excess of $2 million.
Oh.
It's $2,334,000.
That could finance a whole lot. No, I'm joking. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm joking.
And 10 of the trees are valued at $24,000 to $43,000 apiece. So that just tells you that there's value in the landscape. The most valuable tree is the London plane tree, just for a point of information. It's along the beach walkway towards the north end of the park. It's on the fringe of the lawn, and it's right where we have the movie. Right across from the snack bar.
Right there?
That's the most by dollar value. That's
right there?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's a white oak, which is near the corner of Dearborn and Forest, up on the knoll. That's the second highest in value.
Wow.
A sobering number, 33 trees are recommended for removal, based on condition, risk factor, etc. Details of which I'd be happy to share with you as we can extrapolate the specifics from the report and give you the actual list. I think the natural thing to do would be, they're suggesting that 14 of them be looked at in the first year of this management program. And so the next step would be what are we facing in terms of dollars to remove these trees? And that kicks into, are we looking to replace them or not?
Right.
And so that's basically it. I mean, there's a wealth of information here. So
how do we make that available to the public?
We can scan it.
Not easily.
No.
We can scan it and put it on the internet.
We can.
And we can scan it and send it to the commissioners as well.
Great. Please, Commissioner.
No, go ahead.
No,
I
you.
just had a couple of comments.
No. I was going to say, I think from an advertising and marketing tool, I would prefer that we disseminate information in a fashion that will engage the public to help us raise money, as opposed to opening the door for any number of suggestions and criticisms, which I'm sure would be the natural response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Commissioner Salanitro?
The only concern I have is obviously from a government's viewpoint on a known defect, and there's no lawyers in the audience, so that's a good thing, right, Paul?
Yeah.
That this was commissioned by the Friends of Right Town Park, not the commissioners here. So, either we have to react. It puts us in an awkward position to have to decide how to react to a known defect where it's a public place. So,
that's a good point.
I
We should
understand,
figure out how to deal with that.
But at the same time, there's really no difference between this in an organized fashion being looked at than the arborist walking through the park after the storm and saying, "Oh, this is bad. We should take another look at this tree, or this tree should come down." I mean,
but you have 33 trees that's identified someplace in that report that should be removed.
That over a period of 3 years, that based on condition and everything else, they've kind of rated them as a priority 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, but we somehow need to program that into a cost into the budget.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that's never been done before, so I think that's really
This is not a report that should collect any dust, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No.
2 trees that are dead, I think you said.
Frank Fish's report can collect a little dust, but not this one.
No, I think, just off the record, we would like to try to establish a tree endowment fund.
You're on the right track.
So that this goes beyond us. That, we have people who are funding this, just like they fund things down in Central Park.
Right.
So that maybe we can protect what we've got, and come up with a game plan that makes sense for everybody.
That's an excellent idea.
Was there any recommendation made by Bartlett in terms of some kind of replacement trees, species and so forth?
Not yet. What they're really doing is they're still looking at the aftermath of Sandy to see what trees have recovered.
Sure.
And, being along the shoreline puts us in a unique position of, having really limited species, I think, at this point that really are native to the region and sustainable over time. So it may well be that over time, the 331 trees will be replaced and maybe, whittled down to 150 trees strategically placed, where it's to the public's benefit as well as the aesthetics of the park. I think if you look at this, for example, a lot of the trees that fringe the parking area on the lawn are in worse shape than the trees that are not. So that's the kind of thing we have to look at. And there's a high concentration of trees in areas where the public really doesn't frequent. So if we have to thin that out a little bit, it's not to the detriment of people who are seeking shade or, just ambiance. So, it's...
Have the Friends thought about creating a master plan that is a template that would, live for as long as we need it to live, so we can deal with replacement trees, deal with the furniture in the park, maintenance, etc.? Do you have because sometimes things get a little bit...
Right. Addressing that specifically, no. But our intent is to work very closely with our arborist on this program.
Okay.
And see if we can get something in writing with some dollars assigned to it so that we collectively know what we're facing. And then we can go out and hopefully have a campaign to start a tree endowment fund. And what you would do, each tree here is identified.
Right.
And it may be, what the remark might be, when tree number 3 goes through another storm, that's it. We're going to let nature take its course. We're not going to invest in it. The ash trees, however, we may want to inoculate against the borer,
Right.
that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it can be pretty specific.
Okay.
It's not easy. It's not an easy task.
No.
Yeah.
You have short-term goals and you have long-term goals.
Right.
And I think if those goals are all decided on, it's a plan that you can work with as dollars become available, as
Right.
other things, work.
Exactly. Instead of, hit or miss, we have something that's, on the table and everybody can see in black and white.
Well, listen, I can't thank you enough. That sounds really good.
And then one more thing.
Please, yeah.
We're still working on the bench replacement program.
Right.
I didn't have these available the last meeting that I was here. I've gotten some samples from this one manufacturer whose bench I think you've seen that we like. And they come very highly recommended as the product because they're the people that do the Cape May benches.
Uh-huh.
And they have benches down at Jones Beach and on Long Island. And they're shoreline communities. They're right on the water. So, there is some longevity attached to them.
Right, and that's the artificial...
This is a recycled plastic.
Right.
Yeah, we have those.
And I'm going to have one, so.
Sure.
But it looks like cedar.
Thank you. Wow.
And these are 2 colors of a powder coat that,
Right.
out of several that we've whittled it down to. We kind of like the green, but
See if it
this
bounces
might
back.
tie in nicely with the roofing on the buildings
Bishop, you
as
want
it
to
exists
see
now.
Very nice.
Linda, now that would be also, we'll fit something like this into the program where people want to have a donation, a bench donation, so we can give them a selection of 1 or 2, 3.
What we would like to do is select one that we think is most appropriate.
Okay.
And then we are talking to somebody who's had a little experience in marketing and fundraising to actually establish a campaign, much like we did for rewiring the lighting fixtures in the park years ago.
Okay.
Because these will not be inexpensive. And, it's an encouragement maybe of the residents around the park to pitch in as a neighborhood and donate money towards a bench, that kind of thing, so that we can do, we're hopeful, the hope is to do all 19 benches.
Okay.
Or, in the interim, go down and take a look at where these benches are and say, do we need to have a new bench here? It isn't maybe just swapping out, one-for-one, saying, is this really a good place to have a bench? Should it be a 6-foot bench? Should it be an 8-foot bench? Those are the questions now that we're looking at, that I'll be in touch with Bill and Bishop about, and we can go down and kind of brainstorm about a little bit more, and maybe it comes down to 15 benches. But we'd like to have an organized campaign that's put out to the public and see if we can get this thing going.
You can also look at the placard,
Yes. I have a sample coming to me of what they do. It's a reverse acid etched plate.
Okay.
But they didn't have one the last time I asked for it. But let me give these to you. These are...
As long as we have a standard that we can tell an individual if they're looking to have a bench in memoriam of a particular person, that this is what it's going to look like, this is what the plaque will look like.
Right. Right. The top bench in the illustration is the style that we're leaning toward, and the color combination is the one on the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I like the color combination.
Nice. That's good, Linda. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has the right styling.
Yeah.
So, once we have the specifics, yes.
It's nice to actually remember.
Anyway, once we have the specifics together, we'll make a presentation to you of what our intent is. And I just thought that, we're going to establish how much it will cost to have the campaign out there, mailing or whatever we're going to do, and maybe we'll look to the park to help underwrite, if not absorb, the expense of the promotion, and we'll do all the other stuff. So,
Fantastic.
we'll get back to you on that. And that's basically it.
Well, I just want to take this opportunity at year end to once again thank the Friends of Rye-Town Park for all that you do. As people can see, you do a terrific job. I'm really looking forward to working with you again in 2014. I can't thank you enough, Linda, for all that you guys do.
Oh, you're welcome. We're park lovers, and we're glad to do it, and we really need the community behind us. So,
Well, I love the idea of the endowment for the trees, and we should be looking to help Linda and the Friends with a several-year plan to address this issue with the trees.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I see our trains are, again, I see Mr. Noto's made it here tonight, and he's recently had his ankle operated on, so he's really fighting the snow. And let me see. Well, let's get the financial and operations reports if we could. Those they can read. So who's giving that? Bill? Fred? Bill?
Bill, give an operation.
Perfect.
Be very brief.
Good.
I kept it to one page.
Wonderful.
So, and basically it's just nuts and bolts this time of year. We're very fortunate that we did not have a serious storm to deal with over this time period compared to last year. Just to run down briefly, we were dealing with the safety and issues of the dogs, and we did notice that there were a couple of times when people called the Rye City Police about dog problems, which is good. We encourage people to do that because, as you all know, we have no presence at the park during this off-season period.
How's that being handled? Are they doing
So
anything?
police come when they're called, and from what I gathered, they got there in a timely manner so that people were actually given a summons.
Oh, good.
So anything that we can do to encourage the police to help us out would be good all around. And we have these signs made up, which we're going to put out to remind people that the beach is for people, not dogs. And there is a dog beach at Playland, so it's not like people don't have a choice. They can go to Playland and take their dogs there. So I've been working with Greg Arcaro to finish all. We have this operations manual, which we started 2 years ago. It's basically designed for quality control and also for continuity. If staff comes and goes, we have all the procedures, all the timetables, all the personnel policies and issues. And we're doing a lot of fine-tuning as we go through it, and we hope to have a final version, although, of course, it'll always be changing from year to year, but have a piece in place for 2014. Let's see. As I said in my report, we're planning to work with the Friends of Rye-Town Park to design and get made a metal locator map, which will be a You Are Here map right across from the security office, and we once we get that one done, which will be about 22 by 36, then we plan to make smaller ones at other entrances to the park so that wherever you come into the park, you can automatically know where you are and where everything else is. And I think that's an important way of making people feel welcome at the park. We sort of take it for granted because we're there all the time, but you have people who come to Playland and start walking down and they have no idea what's going on. So this will help. And I mentioned that we had other groups using the park. Those are all finished for this season. The only thing coming up, I guess you'll be talking about, is the approval for if they need approval for the Polar Bear Swim, which is an annual event on the 1st of January. So that's coming up. And we're already dealing with charity groups that are planning events for 2014. And I will say that it does lend itself well to the kind of walkathon type events, which have little or no impact on the park and are giving people an opportunity to help raise funds. And that's maybe something that the Friends of Rye Town Park could even think about, some kind of event at the park that would generate income of that sort. So, are there any questions? I can stop there.
Commissioner Salanitro?
I'm good.
No, I think, again, your report's fairly comprehensive. We're at a slow time of the year, Mr. Lawyer, so I think it's fairly good. It's very comprehensive. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And
These guys?
what's that? Well, I'd love to get them on. I'm wondering, I think these people are trying to get here.
Yeah.
Do you guys mind waiting just another 5 minutes? Or I'm trying to knock out the other things that are less important, because this is the most important reason we're here tonight. And so we almost would have canceled the meeting if you guys weren't coming. So I want to give them a chance. For example, raised polar plunge. Can we talk about raised polar plunge, Bishop?
Yeah, it's actually an annual event. The reason we put it in your packet was more or less for informational purposes.
Yeah.
I know that you and Benny are anxious to give this a try this year.
Yes, we are. I think I'm right behind Commissioner Salanitro.
You have to say it's a terrific event. They raise money for ALS. And they probably have, I don't know, I was there 2 years ago, 200 people that are foolish enough to run into the water, soak themselves, and come out.
They actually stay in for a while.
Some of them do, yes.
Do they really?
Some of them do.
Jeez, are they able wetsuits or no?
No, only the police officer. They have a Rye waterfront police officer in one of these, super wetsuits. That's out there just in case somebody has a problem. So it's a very well-handled event. They raise tons of money, and frankly, they don't use anything but the beach and the pavilions.
Great. So what, do we need to decide anything? Or
We just wanted to give it to you as we don't even charge them, to give you an example, because there's really no...
They're crazy enough to go out there on January 1. I guess they deserve to... and just on our financial operations, our anticipated loss is $102,000.
No, I'm going to say our anticipated loss is somewhere around plus or minus $75,000.
All right, but let's start with 102.
Okay.
I like working the other way. All
right.
So we're 102 on the
That's
sheet
fine.
here.
Yeah, the only reason I included it is we don't have the November numbers yet.
Is this the bill for the city of Rye? We sent the bill for the city yet?
Send it to them on the... All right. Well, listen... we can't vote on the dumpster in any case till people get here. We can't vote on the minutes until people get here. Capital neutral, in the old business, I think Mayor French wanted to go through that since this is his last meeting. So, Mr. Fish, they'll have to watch you on TV, I think. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking time for being here with us tonight.
By the way, I think you've all got we did a little agenda for ourselves. It's really just to keep us on point.
Yep.
I wanted to introduce Sarah Yackel, who
Hi,
from
Sarah.
our office
Thank
will
you.
probably be the main writer, if you will, of the RFP. And so that's why Sarah's here. Schedule-wise, I just also wanted to mention to you, we've met, if you turn to page 2, we sort of, aside from our initial meeting with you, with the commission, we then Sarah and I did a site visit with Bishop, and then met with Dan Tartaglia and other members of the committee, and had a very good discussion. And I think if there's questions on that meeting, Dan's here to represent the committee.
Wonderful. Dan, thanks so much. Dan, you put a lot of time and effort into this. Thank you so much for your effort.
So where we are, we've sort of done a project initiation, the site visit, and we want to get into now what I would describe as some of the, the harder work in terms of, but to go over the overall schedule with you, we're hoping to have another meeting with the committee and to sort of review, and you can see this in January, review with them a sort of bidders list. And that to me is pretty important. We've been talking to both Bishop and to Dan about what happened in the past. I mean, there was an RFP.
Right.
I think it's a pretty good RFP, and it's a good basis for going out with an RFP. But I think we've been unable to get a really lengthy, detailed list, and this will lead us at the end of the meeting to suggest a few things to
Great.
you.
Please, Great.
And that is, we want to go through that and eventually get, for instance, the Urban Land Institute, and I'll get to that. They are an organization that developers tend to belong to. And it's a very good, I think, source of potential, getting their list for one thing, and also putting an ad or a notice in their online with them.
Okay.
Because I think a key to this is not only an RFP that explains what you want as clearly as possible, but also is sent to the right people, or a wide range of people. So we wanted to do that with the committee in January.
Which committee? The Capital Committee? Okay.
Yeah. Dan's, and then get that out. We're aiming, as you can see there, possibly in February, to get that kind of list out, to get the RFP out, if you will, so that we're aiming to give people who receive it a little bit of time. And for a site visit in March, I don't want to have people out there in February, but sort of March, sometime in March, aiming March for a sort of site visit. And then have, after the visit, have the bids due, as you can see there, probably in mid-April. We want to give them enough time. And also, this is partly an iterative process. What's going to happen, I think, is that the bids go out. They hopefully get listed by organizations like ULI. There's a sort of tendency among the development community at some meetings to talk about things. And so some people may not know about it as soon as others. I mean, so it's somewhat iterative. We want to leave enough time for them to actually submit a bid. And then, as you can see, when that process happens, we'd like to review the bids with the committee and then the commission. I think it's important to review them all, and before hopefully we will have enough so that you then can do a short list of those that you interview. And I think the interview process, our experience with it, it's pretty important to have both the site visit, the rankings of the proposals that come in, and then your actual interview with, say, the top 2 or 3. So, I mean, we can get to that as those things materialize. So that's the overall.
I'm actually taking notes here. But the bidder presentation in June, well, they submit them in April.
Right. By the way, this is somewhat flexible. I don't know exactly.
My real question is straightforward. Let's assume we award it to somebody. When would they take over running the park?
I would say they would not be able to take. Our experience has been you got to get somebody. You're going to have some negotiation with them once you choose. And I, by the way, wouldn't necessarily reject. I would go with a top choice.
Right.
And you're going to have some negotiation because they're going to submit business terms.
Right.
You're going to have to review those.
Right.
I would expect some negotiation on those. And in fact, we have a couple of questions on that tonight.
Yep. Good.
So
we want the best terms.
Right. I don't think you're going to be in a position to get anybody to take it over at least until 2015. I mean, I think you're going to need that time. They're going to need time. By the way, Sarah, did you want to?
Depending on the approvals or the projects that might be proposed, if someone is proposing an expansion
to
the facility, then that has to go on undergo environmental review.
Oh, sir, can you
Yeah,
come
sir,
up?
come on.
We want to record, make sure that we get your thoughts.
I just wanted to point out that on some of the, depending on the bids that you receive, if anyone is proposing an expansion to the main facility, that process will have to undergo environmental review, which could add additional time as well. So that's just something else to be. I think the more ambitious the proposal, the longer it might take for them to be able to take over operations.
Have you had any preliminary conversations with anybody like Sustainable Playland or anything?
We're trying.
Good.
Yeah, we're talking to a couple of people, and we, of course, have their RFP. We've gotten it.
Oh, they've submitted an RFP?
No,
no.
just the RFP that they sent out. I have not. I've only talked with Kim Morkway and.
Sorry, when you said
This is the old RFP that they sent out.
to who?
To the county sent out. Sorry, the county sent out 2 different development entities and entertainment entities. This is the actual RFP, and we just
Oh,
wanted
that the county sent
that
out.
the county sent out.
Okay.
We wanted to just talk to them about it and who
Sure.
they sent it to,
Right.
get their list,
Right.
and what their experience has been. Also, the Sustainable Playland's experience so far. So
Right.
we want to pursue that and get into that in more detail.
So, but you haven't had a chance to talk
We
to
haven't
Sustainable
had,
Playland?
no, we haven't talked to them in any
Because,
detail.
well,
Just talk to some component
what I can
groups.
guarantee is once it's awarded, they'll have a far better experience than they've had
Right.
with the county.
Yeah, we're sort of aware of the.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll calm down now a little bit. The election's over, and maybe not. So,
But they're an obvious candidate to recruit.
and also just to see, I would say the ups and downs, the pros and cons of how their experience with the RFP was, who they got. Some of that was all in the newspapers, but I'd like to talk in a little
Sure.
bit more depth with them.
Well, so when are we going to know whether? So obviously the bids are due by mid-April, so we'll have a good sense, obviously by then, if not a bit before. I mean, when are we going to know? I mean, you talked about the previous process. I think the previous process we had, Dan and his team put together an absolutely fantastic RFP.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much response, which is precisely why we hired you guys to
Right.
try and generate a response.
Yeah, and the key, we think, is to get it out to a wide range of people. And one of the
Right.
things we wanted, maybe I should jump ahead on that. One
Sure.
of the things we wanted to get to when perhaps when
Yep.
the other commissioners are here,
Mayor Rosenberg is honestly.
Okay.
if you drop down to item 5, I'm jumping ahead
Yep.
on the agenda, but Joe, you raised it and it fits
Yep.
right in, I think. I think talking to Dan and the committee that the RFP was a great effort. I think, though, it needs to go out. It needs to have perhaps a few more specific business terms. We want to get into it with you in it, but also go out to a good range of developers. We think there's a way to help do that. We've contacted, I'm a member of, I don't want to harp on any one organization, but I want to use them as an example. One recommendation to you out of the committee. If you turn to the last page here, you'll see an email back to Sarah. We want to get this RFP in to you, the Urban Land Institute, and its readership, which is national, mostly online, but also in their hard copy. Well, when you're dealing with someone private and you're dealing with developers, nothing's free. So you can see their response back to us, oh, we'd love to do that. We'd love to do that at $695. So
Can we, Mr. Noto, can we authorize, I mean, this is part of this process, can we? Okay,
we wanted to make sure that there could be an expense budget that is cleared by, I guess, the committee or the commission, whatever you want, to put it in. Obviously, it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect.
No, I understand
it
that.
doesn't
Yes,
go
sure.
to us. It's going to just
I
pay
appreciate
for the
that, but I've,
expenses of getting a wide range of this.
so, Mr. Noto, because we don't have a quorum here yet,
Well,
Right.
we wouldn't need to post.
We don't need to post till probably February.
okay, fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight it.
Yeah, no, we're,
ahead of
okay, so
time.
we'll put the other.
Yeah, so I
Doesn't your
don't-
contract have reimbursable expenses that you can have? You don't have a reimbursable expense line item not to exceed?
Benny, I should have thought of that.
Because it could have been just a
But maybe
pass-through.
that's just an addition then for expenses. Maybe that's the way to do it. I talked to
That's
Paul.
actually, what we
It's
should do.
probably the
that.
easiest way to do it.
Yep,
Yeah.
great. So
All right.
we'll pull that together.
Yeah, because we wanted to,
Right, no, we want to make this happen.
Yeah, we think the key to success is getting this to us.
We don't want you coming here every month and saying, I need $500 to make this work.
No.
So we'll set it up, we'll set a budget for it.
Set it up so that, yeah, so that works. The other thing, Sarah, do you want to go? All right. Okay. How do we do is it all right to leave the boards there, or? Can't,
This is not America when they have a lot of cameras. It's a single camera job.
Right.
it's a single camera. Oh, okay, Betty.
Nothing fancy.
Yeah. The,
Are you using this? Are you
Yeah.
using the?
no, I'm not going to do a PowerPoint tonight. I just did.
They're in your package.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah, no,
can
I
see.
got it.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
it. I got
The
it.
people at home.
Yeah.
Can you get that? Turn it. Okay.
We just wanted to be sure of a couple of things.
Sure.
And this was perfect for us to hear Linda on, their
Yep.
study and what
Yep.
they're doing, is we assume in the RFP that we're focusing on basically the covered, the major buildings, parking area, reserve parking area. We're preserving the beach, we're preserving the landscape, we're preserving the park. I think that's what our understanding was, but I wanted to just
Well, as
say it.
opposed to what?
As opposed to incurring into, let's say, putting a building up here. Let me be more specific.
Sure.
with you. We were tending to focus.
You can stand there, but just move over a little bit.
All right. I don't need the mic.
I'm picking you up.
You pick me up.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Bishop. Thanks. We're presuming that focus of attention for the RFP is, the historic facades, including Seaside Johnny's, all of these buildings, and we've outlined a yellow area here. We just wanted to mention it to you when we're out there. Bishop also mentioned it to us, that this is an area that's kind of, it's a little bit ill-defined, and
But eligible, you can build on that area.
Right.
Right.
We think that's an area that we might be able to build
Yeah, absolutely.
something that, would,
Look, I'm
Right.
probably more aggressive than most of our commission members and most of our constituents. But, I think that, the idea was what the committee did a very good job of is making a very broad-based, wide open. So if somebody were to come in with you don't have it in your photo there, but you have that food stand on is at the north end.
yeah.
And, way up. Now this has to be historically consistent and all that, but if somebody wanted to put in a building that was consistent with the park decoration and ultimately, I guess my point is I want to be as open as possible to recommendations and suggestions for the park. So I would not veto anything up front. Now, clearly, certain projects with a big building, 10-foot skyscraper in the middle of the park, it's going to be far more difficult to get improved. But I wouldn't reject something as, from day one. That being said, so I'm probably more open, as I say, than some of the other commission members, and obviously this is a process. But the infrastructure is gone without investment for 50 years. And if we don't do anything, it's going to go without investment for another 50 years. And so ultimately, I think that this is an appeal to the entrepreneurial spirit of the community. And that's why I thought the playland, until it got to the legislature, I'm not trying to be partisan, but the sustainable playland was pure genius. Because they created an idea out of nothing, and they pulled together a crack team. What I thought was a wonderful suggestion, preserving some of the rides, et cetera, et cetera. So, if someone were to come in and say, look, you let me build this best office building in exchange for giving you $10 million to do this, who knows? But I wouldn't. I want to try and cast as wide as possible, I guess is the short answer. I think that was the intention of the committee. Come on up, Dan. Yeah, please.
We're not cute.
Thank you. His last meeting.
I think what
Metro North.
Metro North, 7 o'clock. Oh,
We
man.
switched trains, and then that train had problems. The second.
Is that right? Oh,
So
man.
now you know why I decided not to run again. You're not
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Well, welcome aboard.
Hello, Mayor.
I don't think we have a quorum quite yet. We almost do. But so we're really just getting to the heart of the conversation, I think. So you didn't miss much.
One of the things, Mr. Supervisor, that came out of our Capital Committee meeting with the planners was that in reviewing the RFP that we put together, and we had presented this to the Commission before, we were trying to keep it broad and cast a broad net. But I think what Mr. Fish's recommendation was that we also need to, obviously I'll let you speak to this, Frank, and then Sarah. We also need to make sure that the RFP contains enough of what the business possibilities are, a business proposal is, so that somebody can say, "Oh yeah, I get it." And in doing so, I think they've tried to identify certain areas of potential development or possibilities, and I think in the rewrite of the RFP, that's what we're going to try to do. What are the business opportunities? I think we need to define that a little bit better to give people some idea of what they might be able to do.
Hey, Brett, how are you? Nice to see you.
Disabled train.
No, we all know. Were you guys on the same disabled train or different disabled trains?
514?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul was on that too.
Rosenberg's on that.
Oh, Rosenberg.
Yeah, but I saw him getting off Paul Rosenberg.
Okay, so our commission was all.
I was lucky. I had the Harlem line, so I was on time.
See, the good news is we had a lovely report from Linda Wells on the trees, and it's an issue, and we'll get you a copy of that. Other than that, I think we're just pretty much getting into the meat of the conversation.
Yeah, you have an agenda from, it just has the blue on it,
Yep,
BFJ.
this one here.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
From us, yeah.
And so this is the timeline that we went through.
Okay, great.
The real question is, so I guess what you're saying is, as you want to cast a broad net, you need to give a bit more definition to the
For
project.
instance, I had a discussion with Paul Noto earlier. Was it today, Paul? I think so, yesterday. One of the questions we normally get in something like this from the business community is, well, we're going to look at, many of them, we're going to look at bank financing. They want something that's a 50-year lease, for instance. We can't do a lease here, I understand, but we probably can do a license agreement. And I think, as Paul said, it's got to be a minimum of 20 years. So I just wanted to put that out because I think it's something good to put in it, in the RFP, that you're open to that, so that there's at least a term that someone's taking over that's financeable.
Sure.
That's the.
I think that's certainly my expectation. Obviously, there'll need to be oversight from this commission.
Oh,
right?
yes, absolutely. No.
But it'll be a 20. Provided they do what they say they're going to do, and they don't deviate from what they said, the 20-year term is quite frankly what I anticipated, because there's the only way you'll be able to amortize your investment.
Yeah, that's the big thing. The other thing we wanted to check with you, aside from we've checked with you on buildings, what's available, as Dan said, the idea of the lease, or I should say a license agreement that has a term on it that's financeable, those to us were important, items in terms of a business transaction. And so I don't know if you wanted to add anything else. I'm sorry, for those of you who just came in, Sarah Yackel is from BFJ's, from our office. And
I think the only thing I wanted to add, and this is to the supervisor's point, was that we wanted to, I think the RFP did a great job of sort of explaining the site, but I think we wanted to put in a few more parameters about what is possible.
Sure.
But we're hearing from you, and I think that's great, that we want to also leave it open to to creativity and a full range of ideas while giving some guidance as well.
Exactly. At the end of the day, there are some people who came up, and I don't want to waste people's time.
Right.
So we can consult. We have a commission to the liaisons to the committee, and I think the committee's pretty perceptive as well. But I think if somebody has a grandiose idea, we can provide very quick feedback to say whether it's it's something worth pursuing. Look, we're all business people in our day jobs,
yes.
And so ultimately, the one thing I hate to is waste people's time. So I think what you'll get is a very business-like approach from this board and the board will consider, most there 514.
How are you?
514. So we're
I was with her.
I don't know how I beat you here.
514. So we would be prepared fully to engage, and we're not going to have somebody spend lots of money, time, and effort and due diligence.